ito po ang Cesar Chavez 2023.
Bienvenidos a la celebración de Cesar Chavez 2023.
Welcome to our Cesar Chavez Celebration 2023.
My name is Elio Moreno. I have the pleasure of being your MC today for this celebration. It's my 4th year now MCing this celebration, and I'm always excited to do so. One of the reasons is because Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, they really stand for perseverance and fighting for those who need the most help and need the most of others to stand up for them and their rights. And they always stood up for that. And you're going to be hearing that theme throughout today's celebration. Perseverance, hope, and really standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. So really, I want you to be attentive to all of our presenters, because they've worked hard to present today, and you're really going to enjoy today's program. And with that, we will go ahead and begin with our first dance of the evening, which is Jarabe Nayarita from Pittsburgh High School's Baile Folclórico. Give them a big round of applause.
Chavez was born March 31st, 1927 in Yuma, Arizona. During the Great Depression, the Chavezes lost their family farm. To find work, they moved to California, where they became migrant workers, underpaid laborers who worked seasonal, temporary jobs in agriculture, and often lived together in makeshift camps. With most of his childhood spent moving from farm to farm, seeking work with his family, Cesar Chavez attended school only sporadically. After spending 2 years in the military during World War II, Chavez returned to migrant farm work. Soon he would begin his career in labor organizing with the Community Services Organization, where he served as director for 4 years. In 1962, Cesar Chavez left the Community Services Organization to co-found the National Farm Workers Association, or NFWA, with fellow activist Dolores Huerta. In September 1965, Chavez began leading what became a 5-year strike by California grape pickers, and a nationwide grape boycott that found support across the United States. Labor battles with agribusinesses, including grape and lettuce farms, generally ended with signed bargaining agreements, thanks to Chavez and the NFWA. Cesar Chavez died on April 23, 1993. In 2014, U.S. President Barack Obama declared Chavez's birthday, March 31st, a national holiday.
Yes, please, another round of applause for Cesar Chavez. It's extremely important to watch videos like these that the heroes of the past did for us, because those are the shoulders that we stand on. So now we're going to move on to a student, Alexa Serrano from Phil Am Club, is going to come and speak about another one of those heroes, Larry Idleon. Give Alexa a big round of applause.
Larry Idleon was a Filipino-American labor leader who organized West Coast farm workers starting in the 1930s. He teamed up with labor leaders Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta to demand farm workers' rights. Behind closed doors, Idleon organized many strikes for the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee. He notably organized the 1965 to 66 Delano Grape Strike and Boycott. But overall, he is known for being a vital part of the fight for the rights of farm workers.
And this really shows that the power of community coming together to fight for rights for everyone. So now we're going to move on to our first poem of the evening, written and presented by Leslie Silva Rosales. Please give her a big round of applause.
With soul and might. In fields of gold beneath the sun, migrants toil until the day is done. Their calloused hands and weary feet speak of journeys rough and steep. They've come from lands both far and wide in search of a life filled with pride. With hearts as strong as the earth they till and spirits that never lose their will. Among them stands a man of might, a hero of justice and the fight. Cesar Chavez, his name resounds, a beacon of hope for all around. He marched with workers side by side to speak of rights that could not hide. He spoke of dignity and respect for those who work and never neglect. With words that rang like church bells clear and actions that spoke louder than fear, Dolores Huerta too fought for those unseen and raised them up with all her being. Today, their legacy still remains, a symbol of hope that still sustains. Immigrants who seek a better way and those who strive for justice every day.
Please give Leslie a big round of applause. Next, we have our second dance, and it is a dance mix by Pittsburgh High School students. Please give them a round of applause.
otro hombre solo puedes que su amor ofrece se puede enamorar sin necesidad de hablarse, solo los labios rozarse, Cupido los flechará y solo por un beso con ella soy feliz, tan solo con un besito me llevo a tu pelito y ni siquiera la conozco bien. No son horas de llamar y claro que no estoy nadie. Y si estuviera, si tú ya eres mía, yo creo que tantos celos por no puedes cuando acá.
¡Viva Cesar Chavez!
Now we have a very special presentation that's going to be done by the Latinos Unidos Club officers who are going to come and speak to you honoring the women of La Causa in honor of Women's Month this month. So please give the Latinos Unidos Club officers a big round of applause.
Juana Estrada Chavez was the mother of Cesar Chavez. She moved from Mexico to California at just 6 months old. In Arizona, she married Leonardo Chavez. She lived with him in a farm until 1938, when they lost their land and they were forced to move to California and became immigrant farm workers. But despite all the difficulties that they all had, as a family, they had to experience. But Juana Estrada was the main inspiration to her son's nonviolent protests and solutions in the struggles for better working conditions for the farm workers.
Worked as a senior advisor and assistant to the president and director of the White House office. Then she worked for the Internal Governmental Affairs, working with Joe Biden to improve working conditions for immigrant farm workers, communicating with police and Latinos advocates. Cristina Chavez, born in Delano, California, Central Valley, she grew up surrounded by farm workers led by her grandfather, Cesar Chavez. Today, she works for the U.S. Department of Agricultural Natural Resource Conservation and Services as an outreach coordinator to the public affairs team. She is responsible for reaching out to underserved farmers, including African Americans, Latinos, veterans, LGBTQ, and women.
Camila Chavez is Executive Director and co-founder of the Dolores Huerta Foundation with her mother, Dolores Huerta. Her excellent leadership style has earned her the respect of her staff. Maria Elena's work has been greatly influenced by having been born and raised within the farm workers movement. She is daughter of Dolores Huerta and co-founder of Farm Workers Union.
Cesar Chavez was the mother of Dolores Huerta. She was a businesswoman who owned a restaurant and hotel and welcomed low-wage workers and farm worker families at affordable prices and sometimes gave them free housing. She was said to be kind and compassionate as she was active in community affairs, numerous civic organizations, and the church. Her contributions to the cause inspired Dolores Huerta's activism. Helen Chavez was the wife of Cesar Chavez. From an early age, she was influenced by political activism as her father was involved in the Mexican Revolution. Helen and Cesar Chavez quickly became involved in labor organizing. In doing this, Cesar's name was passed on to Fred Ross, who was the organizer of the community service organization and had the ability to help organize their protests and boycotts. Cesar initially refused, but Helen persuaded him to work with Ross. With the knowledge that Cesar gained, he soon founded the United Farm Workers. Helen was not only an activist for the United Farm Workers, but did it all while being a full-time mother and wife.
Ana Alicia Huerta is Dolores Huerta's granddaughter. She is the Executive Director in Scheduling, Coordination of Special Projects and Research. She assisted in the UFW's foundation in opening Kern County's first nonprofit renewable defense program in order to provide low-cost immigration legal services to those facing deportation.
Another round of applause for the Latinos Unidos officers and the women of the South. So next we're going to watch a video now introducing you and presenting you Dolores Huerta.
Change is what she wanted. Change is what she preached, and change is what Dolores Huerta helped inspire a nation of farm laborers stand up for.
Farm workers who were doing the most essential work of feeding everybody, they were so discriminated in the fields that they were not even provided bathrooms in the fields.
In 1962, Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association. Since then, a track record of change followed. In her youth, strikes, boycotts, and lobbying helped create labor contracts, safer working conditions, and health care for agriculture workers.
If we're going to have a true democracy, everybody has to participate. You know, you just can't have a few people making the rules, making the laws.
The 1960s was a time of change, and although Cesar Chavez received a majority of the attention, Huerta played an equal part in the labor and civil rights movement. The role of men and women were different back then, but looking back, Huerta says that she would have liked to share more of the speaking responsibilities.
We have thousands of people that really created the movement, and I think I probably have got more recognition, but I do agree that I think as women, we probably need to not stand back, but stand up.
At the age of 91, her activism, her passionate energy, and her voice towards civil rights is not faded. Today, she's the president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, a nonprofit in Bakersfield that focuses on equality, health and safety, and education through a program called Unidos, or Neighbors United. The foundation works to unite parents, teachers, and students in the classroom.
Children are not born racist, they're not born homophobic, they're not born misogynist, though we have to start teaching children all of these things right at the elementary school level.
These days, Huerta's activism is not just limited to labor discrimination and racism. She's also taking on issues like climate change.
We have a drought, we have a forest fire, we've had floods, and of course this is happening all over the world, not just in the United States. So this is something we have to address.
Education is very important to Huerta. As a mother of 11, she made sure all of her children were educated about the movements she was involved in. to much joy, she's proud to have her daughter, Camilla, follow in her footsteps as the executive director of the foundation.
It's such a pleasure to be able to work with young people. We are an intergenerational organization. We are an organization run by women of color.
Huerta coined the phrase, "Si se puede," yes we can. It's a mantra that helped inspire a long line of change.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
That Huerta hopes will continue to inspire change.
And then talk to each other, you know. Let's all work hard because whether the racism, the misogyny, the homophobia in our society, and the ignorance, okay? We can all capture that and say it's ignorance.
Talking with the great labor and civil rights activist Dolores Huerta in Bakersfield. I'm John Huerta.
Another round of applause for Dolores Huerta. Now, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. Juana Chavez is the daughter of civil rights activist Dolores Huerta and niece of labor rights leader Cesar Chavez. She was raised a movement child with her first steps on picket lines and marches in support of the famously successful worldwide Great Boycott. She is an alumnus of San Francisco State University, where she served as a mentor for at-risk youth. She provided guidance and helped secure support and resources for Bay Area youth who were organizing for ethnic studies in the San Francisco Unified School District. Upon graduating college, Juanita earned a teaching credential and taught in inner-city public schools in Los Angeles and San Francisco. She co-founded and served as staff advisor for the first Gay-Straight Alliance at Mission High School in San Francisco. Juanita is currently the development director at the Dolores Huerta Foundation and has served as a board member since its inception in 2003. Please join me in giving a big round of applause and welcome to Juanita Chavez.
Thank you for that nice introduction, and thank you all for having me here today. It's such a great honor. As when I was introduced, I mentioned I used to be a former high school teacher, so high school students have a very special place in my heart. So thank you all for coming out today. Thank you for celebrating my mother, Dolores Huerta, my uncle, Cesar Chavez. It just brings such joy to my heart. So we have Cesar Chavez Day coming up on March 31st, and that's a federal holiday, so all across the country. And I'm not sure if you knew that Dolores Huerta Day has been a state holiday for 5 years now. So April 10th, we will be celebrating Dolores Huerta Day. So it's wonderful that your high school brings you together to celebrate these days, because it's so important that we acknowledge and include people who have worked for social justice and advocated for our marginalized and underserved communities. They have to be a part of history, and they have to be a part of the curriculum. Students everywhere should be learning about the contributions of social justice heroes. And I'm glad that Pittsburgh High School is taking that first step. And that you're here today, and that you're committed to learning about it, and hopefully committed to keeping that learning going with the students who follow after you. And wherever you go on with your educational career, make sure that they are teaching these important lessons, because they need to be learned. Period. You saw a little bit there in the video when President Obama used the saying, "Si se puede." And he said when he was awarding the Medal of Freedom to my mother, Dolores Huerta, he said, "I stole your saying." And she said, "Yes, you did." But it's okay, because you were using it for a good purpose. When he gave her that Medal of Freedom, Dolores said, "The freedom of association means that people can come together in an organized fashion to fight for solutions to the problems that they confront in their communities. The great social justice changes in our country happened when people came together, organized, and took direct action. It is this right that keeps our democracy going. The civil rights movement, the labor movement, the women's movement, the equality movement for our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, these are all manifestations of this right that we have to come together and make change. And sí se puede. And she thanked President Obama for raising the importance of organizing to the highest level of merit and honor. The highest award that a citizen can receive in this country. Saying, not only is it acceptable, but it is important and it is good that we come together to make changes in our community. Without this work, the powerful impact of social change cannot happen. And there's no easy route. This work can be tedious and arduous, and the long stretches between the victories and accomplishments can seem uneventful. Sometimes those people who come new to the social justice movement think it's going to be like the footage they see in the documentaries, full of action, with clashes with the police and civil disobedience, getting arrested, courtroom dramas, millions of people coming out to march. But what they might not understand is that the hard work is on the ground. It's knocking on doors in the hot sun. It's having those same doors slammed in your face. It's connecting with and convincing and empowering individual people, one by one, to be the change that they wish to see in the world. And this is truly where most of the action happens. The methods of organizing that were taught by the great Fred Ross Sr. and put into action by my mother and my uncle, they can seem old-fashioned and sometimes even boring. And if you don't know who Fred Ross Sr. is, you have to look him up. Okay, my mom calls him the godfather of the Chicano movement. And he was a gringo, okay? And he's the one who taught them how to organize the way that they do. So we can put lots of resources into ad campaigns and take advantage of social media tools and online organizing. And all of those strategies can be really helpful, but they're not a replacement for rolling up our sleeves, getting into the trenches, being on the ground and talking to people one by one. It takes going into your own communities, gaining the trust by having difficult conversations with the residents to learn about the issues that affect their daily lives. And not go in and say, okay, tell me all your problems, I'm going to come in and fix them for you. No, tell me the problems that you want to see changed, and we're going to work together. We're going to figure out the solutions. Because you don't help anybody if you come in and fix their problems. You help people when you teach them how to solve their own problems and give them the power that they need to be their own voice of change. We can look up to our heroes like Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta and say, wow, they're superheroes. But they themselves would be the first ones to tell you that the accomplishments that they made, they didn't make them alone. They had to convince thousands of people to leave their jobs in the fields and live without even knowing where their next meal would come from, and face harassment and violence from the powerful, wealthy growers, often who had the support and the backing of law enforcement. They had to convince millions of people around the world to stop buying grapes, lettuce, and wine to win the boycott. Dolores Huerta likes to say, it's not about Wonder Woman, it's about Wonder People. It's about all of us working together. These changes could not have happened if they didn't have legions of people behind all of these leaders willing to sacrifice their time, their energy, and sometimes even their own lives. My uncle Cesar Chavez said, it's about helping ordinary people do extraordinary things. One of the big things that we work on in the Dolores Huerta Foundation is education equity, blocking the school-to-prison pipeline. We know that too many of our students of color are getting, they say dropping out, but we say that they're getting pushed out. pushed out of schools and ending up as a part of our criminal justice system. And we want to stop that. They say that education is the great equalizer, meaning that no matter what your background is, if you can get a good education, you can improve your station in life. And this is true for many. And as students, you all should keep that in mind as you set forth making plans for your future. If you have the opportunity to get an education, take advantage of it. And think about all the good that you could do in the world with that education. Knowledge is power. And once you have knowledge, no one can ever take that from you. So please remember that. But you also might know that in many areas of our country, the level and the quality of education that a student receives can be based on the zip code that they live in, their economic status, and even the color of their skin. In the Central Valley, the Dolores Huerta Foundation mobilized the community to take on the Kern High School District on several issues. It's the largest high school district in California, but we noticed from the data that they were releasing and providing to the public that they were suspending brown children at rates that were 400 times higher than their white counterparts. We noticed that African American students were being expelled and suspended at 500 times higher than the white students. So we went to the school district and we complained. And we said, you need to change your practices. There's something wrong here. And they denied it. They said there wasn't a problem. Black and brown children just didn't know how to behave. So we said, we do not stand for that. And we felt that our only option was to pursue justice in the courtroom. So we sued the Kern County High School District. And of course, in a historic lawsuit, which they wasted millions of taxpayer dollars on fighting us, we ended up winning. Kern High School District is now required to implement positive behavior intervention supports and restorative justice practices. All the staff and all the faculty is required to be trained in implicit bias so that they can recognize when they might be acting in a discriminatory or a racist way that they weren't even aware of. So that is a victory that we won by bringing people together in collective action. I'm going to wrap it up, okay? So, lots of other accomplishments that I wanted to tell you about, but time is up. So I just want to let you know that not one person alone or even a handful of people make these changes. It's large groups of people coming together. And so Steve Jobs said the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So when Cesar and Dolores had that crazy idea to start a farm workers union, they were told by so many people that'll never happen. Guess what? They convinced a lot of people to get behind them, and it happened. Remember this. So I was watching the clock, and so just remember to keep that si se puede spirit everywhere you go, because you can do it. So join me together right now in a hand clap. C, organize. Everyone has to be organized and put it together, or it doesn't work, okay? So all together now.
Thank you, Pittsburgh High School. Thank you for being such a great audience. I want to say thank you for coming and joining us.
So trivia. What famous strike did Larry Itliong plan? Was it A, Delano Grape Strike, B, Grape Harvest Boycott, or C, the Cotton Strike? Raise your hands. We have our students with the mic there in the center. Who knows the answer?
It's A.
Alright, that is correct. A is the answer. Now we will move on to question 2. At what age did Juana Estrada Chavez move to the United States? 15, 8, or 6 months old? Someone raise your hand, get called on. C. She said C. Is C the right answer? Yes, it is. 6 months old. Now we're going to move on to our last question. What critical role did Helen Chavez play in the strikes? A, she used her great communication skills to persuade change for farm workers. B, she helped unite Cesar Chavez and Fred Ross to better organize strikes for social justice. Or she came up with the motto, Si se puede. Who has the answer? C. Said number C.
B.
You said B.
I think it's B.
B is the correct answer. All right. Thank you. Thank you, students. At this time, we will proceed with our second poem of the afternoon. This one will be presented by Brianna Ramos, and the poem is written by Gabriela Trejo.
Dedicating this poem to men and women whose work flourished and inspired la comunidad. La casa que dio esperanza a todos los trabajadores y a los hijos de sus trabajadores. I dedicate this poem to the men and women who worked and dreamed for a better working future. That man is Cesar Chavez. That woman is Dolores Huerta. Together, they worked and poured their hearts and souls into uniting farm workers. Their waking moments were dedicated to the making of something greater. Together, they both planted the seeds of hope for a better life without having to resort to violence unlike others. Future generations appreciate them. Thousands of workers thank them today. I admire them for making us feel proud of our history and for being the hope that people needed and still need today. Thank you.
All right, if we can get all presenters and dancers to come up on stage, please. Everyone who presented this afternoon, please come up on stage. That includes the dance mix dancers as well. Everybody on stage. Now we're going to ask all of you to please give a big round of applause to all of our presenters who worked extremely